Well, hi, Cara, and welcome to the Rebuilding My Health Radio podcast. I am grateful to have you here today to talk about your mold and MCAS success story and everything that you learned along the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I've been excited about this because what was the most helpful to me, I mean, again, I did a ton of stuff, in getting better, but what was the most helpful to me in recovering was having other people's stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that you're passing this along, passing your story on so the next batch of people who are going through this can learn as well, because it
Yeah.
is such a big, messy thing to go through. So I know this will help. So I know this will help listeners, but I'm also in the middle of my own mold drama right now. So this is interesting to me. Looking forward to chatting about it. So let's kind of go back to the start of your mold story. Set the scene for us. Where were you and what was happening?
So my mold story probably started when I was 14.
Oh,
Because when my parents did a remodel, they found all kinds of black mold in our house, which was by the ocean in California. And when we didn't know, you know, and we would find mold in my dad's shoes, but we didn't know that that was a sign that something might be wrong with the home. This was in the 1980s, early 1980s. And we lived in that house they lived in it for 25 years. I lived in it for on and off, actually. Yeah, until I was 18. And then when I was 21 for a year or two, and then I came back, I lived with them in my 30s for 2 years during a transition. So there was mold there. But in 2004, I moved to San Francisco to retrain. And I ended up moving into this, we call them a basement apartment. They're not actually a basement because there was a basement below me. It was in the back of a garage and underneath where some people were living, and it had this beautiful backyard, and I was just in love with it. I'm going to share my screen and show my moldy house. You'll be able to edit this part out. There we go. Okay. So this is so um and there it is. So this is the Sutro Tower and Twin Peaks in San Francisco. And this is looking out my back window in San Francisco. And this little structure right here that I'm circling with my mouse, that was a little pottery shed, and it was completely covered in plants. It was very bucolic, and it was 100% soaked and covered in black mold.
oh,
And at
wow.
one point, the people living in this structure before me had actually had a homeless couple living in that structure. It's amazing how many people live with like serious amounts of mold. So I did not realize that my place was a biohazard. And so coming back to you, I was not aware that my place was a biohazard. It did smell like mold, and my mom and my friends who came to visit it, they noticed it, but none of us realized that that was a health hazard.
Hmm.
And I wasn't getting sick, so I had absolutely no clue. And it took me 12 years to become ill. So, and now that was probably my methylation and detox profile and genetic testing looks pretty crappy. So it looks like somebody who maybe doesn't cycle everything out. And this is like anyone who listens to uh, Dave Asprey's podcast knows his story about how he was exposed to mold when he was 8, and he weighed 300 pounds and was very sick and had brain fog in his 20s because he'd never cycled it out. He had to get well from mold back in the late 90s when we really didn't know much about this. So in 2016 I started having symptoms, and they included being really negative and really ruminative. I didn't even talk to my mom for like 3 or 4 months because I thought something was all her fault. Uh, I felt suicidal. I had rage. I had a cardiac arrhythmia. I would pass out in the shower all the time. I would like get out of the shower, run in the kitchen. I would drink a bunch of maple syrup and feel better. And I go, okay, that's fine. And then yeah, but this would happen all the time. If I was like carrying a bunch of luggage, or I had a margarita, or like there would be all these triggers and I'd get a cardiac arrhythmia, and I didn't know why I was getting it. And the health insurance I had at the time was Kaiser Permanente, would not let me see specialists. They would not make the referrals. I told them my whole cardiac family history. I told them that I was passing out. They were not interested in letting me have any help. And so I didn't look into it, but I did get myself tested for magnesium and found out that was low. And so my arrhythmias went away for a little while. I was able to like just kind of deal with these symptoms for 2 to 3 years without knowing what was causing them. I didn't realize something was the cause of all of them. I didn't realize that there was a link between any of them. I was just, the arrhythmia was a mystery, and the rest of it, I was blaming my life. I was deciding that I was unhappy with my practice. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, by the way. I have a solo practice, I live in Boulder, Colorado now, but my practice and all of my patients are in California, in the Bay Area. And I treat people who have mood, anxiety, trauma, ADHD, and sleep. And I have an integrative practice, but not functional, but integrative. So that's what I actually do for a living. I did not have any functional medicine knowledge when I started this journey. I had started seeing a functional doc out of interest, but we didn't know I had mold until 2018, when she said, "Hey, we should really test your home." And I'm going to have a picture of this.
You tested your home before you tested yourself? Is that
Yeah, I tested my home first. And so this is an ERMI. It's environmental relative moldiness index. And here it is. So it goes on the scale, right? Like 0 is around where everyone in the country is on a median. And then things get either better or worse from there. Mine was a 19.1. So it was like the highest level that there is.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, and I was nose blind. I didn't smell it. Anyone walking into my place could smell it. I didn't smell it. There's the way that you get these done. I use Mycometrics. They do a great job. There's different ways to get mold testing done. You can, for instance, some people use agar plates, and they are these little round plates of gel, and they collect mold out of the environment. Neil Nathan says that they catch only about 10% of what's there. And I'm like, well, why'd you ever use these? They're apparently very useful for testing your furniture. You can put an agar plate next to a piece of soft furniture, and you tap, 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 and tap on that furniture, and you can collect and see, like, but I don't know. Personally, I think if you have a really moldy home and you have a piece of furniture, there's like mold in it, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
There's
You
some
have a
mold
really
in that,
moldy home, molds in
that
everything.
furniture. It's in that, yeah. And especially stuffed furniture, because when you sit down on it, it goes boom, you know, and all of the air
Yeah.
sucks in and sucks back out. But so Mycometrics, Liz Biotech is another company that does this. They're significantly cheaper than Mycometrics, which is why my colleagues and I are recommending them right now, but they're both excellent companies. After you, and every time I click on this, it goes, okay. After you get it done, then you go to myhousemakesmesick.com and you use the Hurts Me Too calculator, and it tells you like your relative moldiness for your home. So there's a way to look at this.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And this is a good thing to do if you are renting, because like I was renting, and so I tested, and I was like, well, clearly I have to get out of here. Now, if I owned the home, I would then have gotten an IEP, which is an indoor environmental professional. And I was told who to work with if I wanted to, because my colleagues are expert in this and they know who in my area to refer to. And if the listener has a functional medicine doctor, can definitely, ask him or her about this, because they're going to know. But if you have to do it on your own, you go to ESI, which is the International Society for Environmentally Acquired Illness. For information on choosing professionals, they have it there, or the Building Biology Institute. They also have listings. These are people who, the difference between like your average mold inspector and the person that someone who's sick wants to see is that the person who's sick treats mold like a cancer. They not only remove the mold, they remove the margins around it. They also are very careful not to expose the inhabitants to mold while they're doing the work. They also, not only are they just going to look like cursorily at parts of the home to see if it might have some visible mold, because they're trying to sell the house, right? Help you sell the house. They're also looking for what could make this person sick. So they're going to do core samples. They're going to punch holes in walls. They're going to crawl around in your attic and in your basement. They're going to do a really, really thorough job, and they're trained to do this.
Right.
So these are the people that you want to do business with. There are some folks that, because it just, I mean, we were compromised during the pandemic, during COVID-19. There are some people that do remote work. Larry Schwartz became expert in that, and Greg Weatherman from Florida. And the two of them pioneered the remote inspection. But you cannot do a core sample remotely.
Yeah.
They can do,
Right.
yeah, they can do a lot of interviewing, and have you fill out like a ton of reports, and they can walk around with a video camera with you and things like that.
Mhm.
So I also tested my body, and so I'll share a picture of that. And there's some different ways to do that. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the first question that I get is like, how do I know if
How
I
do I
have mold
know? How do I test my
exposure?
body? Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, maybe it's not from this structure. Maybe it's not from your current home. Like this could be from the home you had as a child that, like, Dave Asprey, where he collected it for 20 years before he figured out that he had to do something. I don't expect anybody to read this. It's crazy. This is a picture of cells in the body being affected by biotoxins and what they do, like reducing sex hormones, reducing ADH, which is a diuretic hormone, antidiuretic hormone, like ending up causing like staph or causing prolonged illness, because you end up with uh, with fungus in your gut. You end up with an altered gut microbiome. You wind up with inflammation in the body. It is a system wide alteration. So, and there are some markers that are mentioned on here, like reduced VEGF, which is basal endothelial growth factor. That I'm probably not saying that completely correctly, but it's
That's a hard one to say.
something endothelial growth factor. Yes, and MSH. We test TGF beta and MMP9. Like when people gain weight from mold, it's MMP9 is going up. That one's mentioned right here. TNF alpha, IL-1 beta, etc. IL-1 beta. That is a proxy for IL-18, and that one is especially hard on the heart. So it's like, well, would you test these? Here they are. And this is back from 2019. This is my list of what I tested. And many doctors believe that some of these are no longer even helpful, and they don't order them anymore. I personally, I mean, I was curious about them, and I had the money to test them, and I was not scared of them.
Mm.
And so I did it. But I think really for some people, this is going to be a very expensive panel. These are the ICD-10 codes that your doctor can use. If you want to watch this on YouTube and reference these, your doctor can use these ICD-10 codes. These are the ones that Mary Ackerley uses to get TGF beta covered, if these codes are appropriate to the patient. And it still won't get it covered most of the time. So
Yeah.
you're looking at paying a lot of money for these tests. And what are you going to do about it? You're not going to do anything different than you would have done before. I actually am glad that I tested ADH. I now test copeptin, which is an analog of ADH. You don't have to thirst the patient to test copeptin, because it helped me to diagnose my kidney disease.
Okay.
But aside from that, none of this helped me to treat anything. What helped me to treat was to look at these. So these are mycotoxins.
And this is Great Plains, is that?
This is Great Plains, which is now called Mosaic.
Okay.
Okay. And the GPL, which is now called Mosaic, they do the testing a little differently than does Real-Time Labs. The technology is different. Some practitioners believe one is more accurate than the other. I personally believe neither of them are accurate. I have done, well, no, but I can say that objectively because I have done split samples where with my own patients, and my colleagues have done this also, where their patient like pees in a cup, and then we divide the cup, right, to 2 cups, and we send it in separately, and we do 2 different analyses, and they come back completely different from the same pee.
That is crazy.
It's hard to explain, right? It really
Yeah.
is hard to explain. So
Ha.
these are all clues. They are not 100%. Okay. It was interesting to see that this was really, really messy.
Mhm.
And then once this was in 2019, and then in 2020, when I tested again about a year and a half later, it was 100% clean.
That is impressive.
So yeah, so it is possible to really, really like roto-rooter your mold.
Yeah. And we want to hear how you roto-rooted your mold.
Rooted my mold. Yeah. All right. So, in 2019, I went to a scientific meeting and I couldn't sleep. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, I felt like there was something buzzing in my body. I felt like I was vibrating inside. And and I was shaking and I was dizzy and I had rage. I had emotional feelings that I don't actually know how to describe. Like they were really, really confusing. And I felt like my insides were being turned inside out and that I couldn't walk anymore. And and I couldn't even cry. I couldn't do anything. I would like, and I was working 60 hours a week, which was a blessing because if didn't have my patients to focus on, I don't know what I would have done. But I would just stop and sit down and be completely blank and just have like incredible amounts of like psychic pain and not know where it was coming from. And I knew it was from the mold, but I was like, wow, this is really a trip. So I went home and it was the last night I spent in my home. I slept in my office after that. I got a chemical free air mattress and I slept in my office for about 5 days in Airbnbs and, trying to figure it out. I got a hotel for 5 weeks. It was a great little 19 or 1800s hotel, which didn't have any mold. It was great.
Wow. How
And
do you found an 1800s hotel with no mold? That's amazing.
it just, it was in a part of town that had a lot of sun and it had never, yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt really good in there. And I got a new apartment. And I started dealing with all the organ damage that I had. I had damage to my thyroid, kidneys, heart, and brain. And I didn't get the brain fog that people talk about. Most people get that. I got dizziness, I got rage. It affects the limbic system quite a bit. So there's a lot of emotional stuff that people get. I personally like to say that mold lives best on dead things. So mold wants you dead. It if you're dead, it's gonna thrive even better. And so it tries to take you away from the people you love. It will try to ruin your relationships. It will make you isolated. It will ruin your business. That didn't happen to my business somehow, but my friend Kathleen Toops has a colleague who just could not stop visiting her Chinese chests that she had in storage. And every time she would visit these, she would get exposed and she would get rage and she wound up losing her medical license.
Wow.
Yeah. So mold tries to separate you from your tribe. Let me see. I have a picture of something about getting a new apartment that I'd like to share with you. So we go over here. And so these are some things that you can do to make sure that Zoom is putting something in front of me. Here we go. To try to make sure that the apartment that you get doesn't have mold. There's some signs, okay, such as looking for discoloration or drips on the ceiling and floor, nails popping out. That shows that a surface has been ruptured and that moisture can get through. Paint rippling, like look around the windows, make sure the moldings fit and meet. Touch to see if the wood is soft near the joins, because what causes wood rot is something getting wet and then drying and getting wet and then drying over and over again. You look in the bathroom, see if the fan is vented to the outside. Make sure that all the joins of the fixtures and cabinets are clean. You can look around underneath the sink where all of the plumbing is and see that they have blown foam into the wall around the plumbing. So see that it's insulated.
Huh?
Use a humidity meter that you can keep in your bag and measure the humidity outdoors. I did this with my best friend. He snuck around behind me with the humidity meter and and did all the walls. It's this thing for those of you who aren't actually watching. It's General Tools digital moisture meter. And the number is M as in Mary, so MMD as in dog, 7NP. So it's a digital moisture meter, humidity sensor, and it's non-invasive, it's pinless, and it will read through drywall and read through like thin walls, such as say you had some medium density fiberboard that was, 5/8 of an inch or something, it'll read through that.
Super helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
And
really,
it's
really
on
good tip.
Amazon
That
too.
one's on Amazon. That's easy to find. I've bought like 3 of these over the years. That was recommended to me by John Banta. Um, and I'll share a little bit more about John Banta when I get into how to clean your home. So binders and air cleaners. It's really important to have air cleaners in your home, and it is controversial as to which air cleaners are helpful. Any HEPA filter gets particles larger and smaller than 0.03 easily, but 0.03 is hard. There are forces that keep it from getting that size of particle. It's easy. It's easier for it to get smaller and harder.
Hmm.
And mold fragments are really, really tiny. They're around 0.003, and most HEPA filters grab 95% of those, although only 2 of them claim to get more than that. Mary Cordaro is a building biologist, and what she does is she helps people to build new homes that are clean for people who are chemically sensitive. She helps people to buy new furniture. So she helps folks to build and purchase, things for clean homes. She recommends the IQ Air Health Pro Plus, the Austin Air HealthMate, and some blue air filters. All of those, she really thinks IQ Air and Austin Air are the better ones, because blue air is a high quality product. I have a blue air. I also have an Austin Air. The blue airs may include ionizers, and ozone can harm health. So like ozone is not legal in California, for instance.
Hmm.
So if you get a blue air filter, because some of them are very attractive, that's a nice thing about them. They're pretty and they're effective. But you want to make sure that you don't have the ionizer feature turned on if it comes with one. Speaking of this, also some units claim to have UV, and this at least 5 years ago, the UV had been proven independently by indoor air quality researchers not to be effective for air filters. I had an IQ Air. It cost me $1,000. It was about that big by like waist height. It took up most of my hallway. It was really loud. The thing was a beast. And I was like, you know what? It is an amazing unit. And it made me feel like I was living for illness and I couldn't own it anymore. So I
Hmm.
gave it to a friend. So she has it.
Wow.
I have a Coe. So I have an Austin Air, I have Blue Air, and I have Coe. Coe is not discussed by anyone in functional medicine.
Hmm.
However, it is one that is very highly regarded by both Wirecutter and Consumers Reports. So they have both tested it. The ones that have not been, and this is just per people that I know and per my own reading, it's not an official stance, but the Air Doctor is one that you'll hear a lot of advertisements for on podcasts because they do a lot of affiliate marketing. They will not be third-party tested.
Hmm.
Last that I heard, they would not be third-party tested. So that made me not want to buy one. Although some of my colleagues swear by them, and like one of my colleagues said her children's asthma is much better with that unit in her home. A molecule is one also that I would be cautious about purchasing because they will not be third-party tested. And Wirecutter went and grabbed one anyway and tested it. And in their opinion, it is one of the worst units they have ever examined.
Wow.
And these are beautiful looking units. They look like a modern home, like they should be in a modern home. But Wirecutter, you can look up their review on
Hmm.
Molecule.
Yeah. Wow. Good to know.
So that will hopefully save some people some money and time and help them to narrow in.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. It's dizzying, all the options, for sure.
yeah, there are so many options and there's so much marketing.
That's true.
Um, there's so much marketing. So getting into, did I go through? Oh, I didn't go through binders yet. So everyone's going to talk about binders because you take binders to bind mold. It's you. What the purpose of this is the binder is in your GI tract, and you express the mold from your body, and you're going to like get it out through your stool and through your urine. And so you want the binder to mop it up and then move it out through the stool. And so there are, and I'll share my screen again, there are like a lot of binders. I used 6 of these personally.
All at
So
once, right?
I use six all at once. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, this is an interesting thing because I'm in a study group. And in our study group, there's 13 of us, and it's me and 12 functional medicine providers. And this one video went around about a woman who had psoriasis with psoriatic plaques all over her entire body. And she'd been suffering for years and years. And her doctor said, we have to get you using binders twice a day. And she said, oh, I've been using the binders for 3 years and they haven't been doing anything. And she was using them once a day. And he got her using them twice a day. And within 2 weeks, her body had cleared.
Hmm.
And this was such a dramatic difference, a dramatic change. And it was such a moving story that all my colleagues started telling everyone they had to bind twice a day. And especially because the liver goes through 2 cycles in the day, I was binding once a day. And it was a matter of needing to be realistic. I was taking supplements 11 times a day because so many of my supplements had to be with each other or without each other, on an empty stomach or with food. And the binders are empty stomach things. And they are, an hour before or 2 hours after. Yeah. I remember
Eating.
this is back when I used to not eat breakfast. Don't do that. Breakfast, you're at 23% increased cardiovascular risk if you don't eat breakfast. I've
Ooh.
got that literature, plenty of it. So, yeah, I didn't eat breakfast for 8 years. That made it easier, but I was taking supplements 11 times a day and I was doing all my binders in the morning. If I was going to try to do binders on an empty stomach twice a day and work and take everything else, it just was not going to happen. And you saw my Great Plains Lab urine panel. I mean, it was completely clear. So
It worked.
it worked. And I do have some mold now, and I don't know how I picked it up. I don't know whether it was there and it didn't come out on that test. I did it through real-time labs. It could have been from the last apartment I was in, so I'm binding that right now. But I
Got
don't
it.
feel sick,
So, Kara,
these are
this is a big list,
There's
and
a
you.
big list. It's a very big list. And each one of these things, there's some overlap here.
Mhm.
Because like, for instance, biobotanical research, GI detox, that has charcoal, and so do some other things here. And this is a zeolite product. And there's a couple of other products here that have zeolite, but so some of these products are a single thing, like just clay, just chlorella. Some of them are combination products. How do you pick one? Well, look at this. These are the foods and binders that supposedly bind to very specific mycotoxins. Wow, you could get really fancy. I collected this list from somebody. I can tell you that not one of my colleagues follows that. And the excellent doctor, if you're in California, hire Stephanie Daniel. Just don't think about it. Just hire Stephanie Daniel. She is fantastic. And none of us thought about that stuff. In my experience from talking with many functional medicine doctors, people who are nationally known, people who are really good, what they tend to do is they have their favorites. They start with those favorites, and then they will add and swap based on how you're responding. And I do hear some things like, oh, well, this is, sac boulardii is good for gliotoxin. But I mean, is it? I mean, won't cholestyramine do that as well? I don't know. There aren't human studies in this. So how do we know?
Right.
So I mean, my best advice to the listener is that, look, there's a lot, and you don't have to be the person that picks it. If you choose a provider that has an excellent reputation for knowing mold and MCAS, and we'll get into MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, then you'll be in really good shape. And you don't have to look at really crazy charts like this.
Yeah, right. Work with a practitioner who can help guide you.
Yeah, work with someone who my practitioner was amazing. I completely trusted her. She got me all the way through this. I can't recommend her enough. And I know she's taking new patients. So
Awesome.
if you're in California, there's some question as to whether people will see somebody who's not from the state they're licensed in. Formally, their malpractice insurance and their license will not cover them to see someone who isn't physically in the state they're licensed in. So I live in Colorado, but my license is in California. So my patient has to be in California when I meet with them. They're in Colorado, I can't see them.
Right.
know if they're sitting on the couch with me. So,
Oh, that's crazy.
but some practitioners have different attitudes towards this. They are willing to see people over video if that person has seen them in person once. So, you can just, excuse me, ask people questions about how they like to manage their licensure and the patients that they see from wherever those people are. All right. So I wanted to say something before I move into talking about mast cell activation syndrome. I want to say something about cleaning practices. Get a HEPA vacuum, get rid of your broom. All that does is move stuff around. Okay. Get a HEPA vacuum. Miele is a very good brand from Europe. They're a little expensive, but they're great. And the Shark, and that's an American brand that's much less expensive. And the Shark is also excellent. I have Amelia because it's cute and because I just ergonomically like the way that it works. And then John Banta, who was an IEP, and well, he still is, but he no longer provides those services. He's now writing books with his writing partner. And he taught me, he was my person for consultation. I saw him. I also saw Mickey Contini. You can see Mickey from anywhere in the country. Mickey Contini, she's a nutritionist, but she's also a mold specialist. She's a mold coach. She has been through mold. The last time I talked to her, it was 4 times because she's from Florida and she's been through it 4 times. She knows how to coach you through everything about mold. And so it's MICKI Contini, CONTINI. And as it turns out, my mother's functional medicine doctor in Texas works arm in arm with Mickey, and Mickey consults for all of her patients. And Mickey's available to anyone in the country because she doesn't have a license, right? She has certifications. And I really recommend her. I think she's wonderful. And she was really helpful to me in learning how to clean things out. I lost 98% of my belongings in this adventure. John Banta did tell me that doing ozone cleaning would not help anything. I think that may be correct for people who are ultra sensitive. I didn't know whether I was going to be ultra sensitive or not. I even got rid of my makeup brushes. I got rid of everything.
Wow.
I have a designer clothing collection and I wanted to save some of it. I sent it to CRDN, and they did, CRDN has, or CDRN, they have, they clean things with ozone, belongings, not furniture. And
Okay.
they're in various states in the country. And I did send some stuff to them and cross my fingers. And for me, it worked. I did not get sick from any of my belongings when they came back.
Wow.
So yeah, nothing smelled like mold. It was good. I also found a Serve Pro that was reliable, that was able to clean one piece of furniture for me that I have emotional attachment to. So that's not going to work for everybody. I think if you were ultra sensitive, it really might not. The only way to get rid of mold is not to kill it. You want to remove it because killing it actually makes it spore. It's trying to defend itself. If you use bleach, if you use chemicals and you're trying to kill mold, it's going to spore, it's going to try to defend itself. You're not going to be removing it, and it's just going to make the situation worse. All bleach does is remove the color from it. It actually makes it worse. So what you really need to do is, and I'll share my screen here again. Okay, there we go. Like these are some of John's tips. Always using a properly functioning vacuum. Okay, removing, emptying that collection bag outside. Okay, not indoors. Check to see how much dirt you miss when you do that. His wife is mold sensitive, and so he like lives this with her because she's very, very careful. Clean hard surfaces with microfiber cleaning cloths, and he teaches you how to do that in this book. You have a bowl of water and it's got a little tiny bit of Dawn dish detergent in it, or you can have spray bottle with the Dawn and it's a tiny, tiny bit. It wants to be just a little, I forget what the ratio is of water to Dawn, but the water is going to clean away the molds that are water loving, and then the lipophilic, the lipid loving molds are the ones that will be cleaned away by the dish detergent.
Okay.
And you get your little your microfiber cloth and you fold it up in little pieces and you wipe and you fold and you wipe and you fold and you dip and you throw it out. And he gives you a very specific protocol for literally everything.
Wow.
And he also tells you to avoid dangerous and products and ineffective products. He has you use really simple, really inexpensive stuff that works. So I
Hmm.
can't recommend John Vanta enough. He was enormously helpful to me. Um, and I didn't have him examine my home because I was moving out of it, but I did have him like teach me all about all this stuff.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that sounds like a great resource.
Yeah.
Cara, so do you want to talk a little bit about MCAS,
A
how
little bit
this
about
kind of,
MCAS. Not a
and then I
lot, because
know
this is
you need,
something you want to learn mostly from your functional medicine doctor. It's a very, very big topic. MCAS, I have collected probably 40 pages of material on it. And I could tell you how I discovered that I had it. I couldn't sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I've never had a sleep problem in my life. And that's when the body produces a big dump of histamine. And
hmm,
I thought, okay, I knew that almost everyone who, actually, my mom does not have MCAS, but almost everybody who's had mold gets MCAS. And I thought, well, this is probably it. And so I can show you what my symptoms were. So I had hypotension, which is POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I had constipation. Okay, but this is also from having the gut microbiome disrupted by all of the candida
hmm,
overgrowth, right?
yeah.
Because of the mold disturbs it. I had like my eyes were running and my nose was running after food. I had exhaustion after food. I would have like neurologic symptoms. Um, I had, so people have like luminal or solid organ inflammation. For me, it was urethritis. Like it would take me forever to use the bathroom. I would have to sit there and wait for it to be
Wow.
able to. Yeah, so it's so similar to interstitial cystitis, which a lot of people get from MCAS, but I
Hmm.
didn't get IC. I got this instead. I got chronic kidney disease. I got MUGAS, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance, which is where the gamma and kappa light chains are in the wrong ratio. As it turns out, that was directly related to my kidney disease. Um, Sleep disruption, hyperferritinemia, my ferritin went through the roof. So these were just my symptoms. There are more here, and this is a short list. This is from Lawrence Afrin. He's the world's foremost expert on MCAS. And he has a paper where his list of symptoms are twice this long.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so it really can be a lot and it can get missed because of that.
Right.
What I did was the really obvious thing was I added 3 grams of quercetin, which I couldn't keep because it's not good for people who have kidneys that are already damaged.
Hmm.
If you don't have already damaged kidneys, you can use plenty of quercetin. It's not going to hurt you. I tried some of the more obvious things such as cromolyn and ketotifen and the second generation H1 blockers like Allegra, Claritin, and Zyrtec, and
No,
no,
but the quercetin helped.
the quercetin knocked it out 100%.
Wow.
Yeah. And I ended up replacing that with 60 milligrams of melatonin.
Yeah. Interesting.
So
Okay.
there's a lot you can do. I would say that about MCAS, there's so much that it's not something I can really go into here.
Yeah.
But I would say 2 things. I would say that if you're already taking a number of supplements, that you're already taking some things that help. Like for me, omega-3s, progesterone, bioflavonoids, low-dose naltrexone, CoQ10, alpha-lipoic acid, flax and chia seeds, probiotics, which improve the gut, molybdenum, sulforaphane, and some other things I was taking were all improving my MCAS before I even knew I had it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So you're probably already doing some stuff and you just need to identify, and the trick is quality brands and proper dosing. And also using the right thing for the right symptoms. For instance, black seed oil, which is one of Neil Nathan's favorites, is excellent for GI symptoms from MCAS.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good to
So it's
know.
not something I would add because I don't have those,
Yeah. Right.
but that's something, yeah. They may work on other ones. I just know it's really especially known for GI.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't do, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, you go for
Oh,
it.
okay. Something I didn't do, but that I do recommend to my clients. I didn't do it just because of a time constraint. But there are several practices called DNRS, which is oh now oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget what it is. And I hate when that happens.
It's
Uh,
like something neural
Dynamic, I think
retraining
it's
system.
dynamic neural retraining systems.
Okay.
Gupta program and primal trust. and there are some others coming up as well. And these are brain retraining programs. They're limbic system retraining, and they are useful for people who have trauma, POTS, MCAS, any kind of limbic system disorder. They are a combination of cognitive behavioral work with meditation, with breath work, with like positive imagery. Each one of them is a little different than the others, and they're a collection of techniques put together that allow people to grow new neural networks in the limbic system and completely heal. And lots of people you can read their testimonials. DNRS was not the original. I thought it was. Gupta actually came before. But DNRS is an hour a day for 6 months. And so that's what kept me from doing it. Gupta, you can do it in half an hour. It's less time. Primal Trust, I'm less familiar with. I'm just finding out about it. But if the person has time in their life, these can be really instrumental in helping them to reduce symptoms. I have one patient who has used a similar program for chronic pain. She came out of fibromyalgia and interstitial cystitis 100%. She's 100% well, and she used only her mind to heal herself.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Cara, you have shared so much. It's been like a master class. Impressive level of information and your recovery as well. Any last words of advice?
Last words of advice: surround yourself only with people who are positive. Only with people who are telling you that you're going to get well and believe that you will get well, because we do. Get a practitioner who really does know their stuff, not someone who, quote, likes mold. Okay. Somebody who has worked with it a lot and who knows what they're doing, and get recommendations. Try to work with someone that has worked with someone and has really helped them. And what else can I say? You could spend a fortune on this, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. It really doesn't have to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on to share your journey and everything you've learned along the way. It's been hard won, and I know this will help folks who
I hope
um,
so.
be in the middle of a mold drama or suspecting that they're affected by mold. So,
Yeah, and if you suspect, test.
yeah, right,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's another thing to say quickly. If you don't have a functional medicine doctor at the moment and you want to do testing, I can't think their name off the top of my head, but there are several companies that will sell you testing kits online without a practitioner. They have the practitioners to order it for you and to do the interpretation with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that real time? Real time labs doesn't. You need a practitioner.
So even if you do need a practitioner, the way this works is you go to the website and you choose the tests from Quest Labs, from LabCorp, from GPL, from Cyrex, you choose whichever tests you want, and you put them in your cart and you check out, and you just pay cash for them. And then when the testing comes in, someone goes over it with you.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. We'll try to track that down and include it in the show notes. Um, wow. Okay.
I can try to track that down for you.
Okay.
I'm just
Cool.
not
Cool.
thinking of it off the top of my head, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Cara.
Yeah,
I
you're welcome.
truly appreciate all that you put into this, and I learned a ton, and I know others will as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise. Take
Okay.
care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.